The NFL is down to its final four, and there are storylines abound. So, let's talk about them. We begin with the Buffalo Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the game that everyone, I think, is really geared up for. Both games are, really. And because of that, I think there are a lot of storylines to go with these particular, matchups. For Buffalo, it's obvious. Can they slay the dragon? Can they take down Patrick Mahomes and finally get over that final hill to get their way to the Super Bowl in New Orleans in a couple of weeks' time? They have gotten so close to beating these guys in the past, but have never really been able to get over that final hump. They were painfully 13 seconds away from being able to say that they did that against Mahomes and the Chiefs a couple of years ago, and they were unable to do it. And it has been I would say a big story the whole way, is that, okay, this is good, but that's to steal the wrestling and video game term, that's the final boss. That is the last guy at the end of the road that you need to beat, which is weird because they would then have to play another game after it. But that is the one that you have to really, the final hurdle to try to clear in the AFC. They've done it in the regular season a couple of times, so they know they can do it. But now they have to do it in the postseason. And I don't think we are getting to a point where if they don't do it, then big changes have to be made or anything along those lines. I don't think we are there. Although you could say that they've already done that, right? Like they've already got rid of Diggs. They have already, I think, dramatically changed what the offensive philosophy is out there. Defensively, I mean, the big change is that they are worse. But they have already made some big changes. So I don't think we're in a spot where if they lose this game, Sean McDermott is like, I don't think Sean McDermott's coaching for his job or anything along those lines. But I do think that like we are getting into a legacy discussion here where like I kind of compared it on Sportsnet Tonight yesterday, on Sportsnet 960 The Fan, to a team that like the Manning versus Brady, where it was Brady, and then finally Manning broke through, and we all just accepted that he was the best quarterback in the league. Or not the best quarterback in the league, sorry, but he was one of the best quarterbacks to have ever played the position. And Allen has worked his way into that without having that win over Patrick Mahomes, but this really would solidify things for him. It obviously means a lot for the team, but it means a ton for Josh Allen. Right now, he is hanging out in that kind of Dan Marino category where, yeah, this is one of the more talented quarterbacks we have seen, and certainly one of the more talented quarterbacks of his time. That hasn't won anything, and that's probably always going to be something that sticks with him. And I know it shouldn't. I am very aware that it shouldn't, right? Because only one team gets to win. And so that's what makes it very, very difficult, is only one team gets to win that championship at the end of it. And so judging all of these players based off of that, especially a team sport like football, where, I mean, it wasn't his fault that Patrick Mahomes went down and scored in 13 seconds, right? Like, he wasn't out there playing linebacker on Travis Kelce, although he's big enough to. And maybe that's something they should look at. But because it is such a team sport, it does feel weird to judge these guys off of it. And we like to, I think, in the moment, think that we're smarter than that. And it's another thing I talked about on Sportsnet Tonight yesterday with Liz. We were talking about it from a hockey standpoint. But it is weird that this guy is dominant through 17 games of a regular season and a couple in the playoffs, but then doesn't get to that last game and, oh, well, guess he sucks now. But ultimately, you are judged based off of a couple of games in your career. And when you look at it, the ultimate point I'm kind of getting to here is, yes, we can all appreciate how good Josh Allen is. And we should appreciate how good Josh Allen is. But there is a reason that Dan Marino is fading from that conversation. And my generation of sports fans kind of is keeping that alive, but really it is the generation before us that is really holding on to that. And it is something that it is very unfortunate because Dan Marino was awesome, but it is something that is going to kind of fade away with time. And it's kind of that, not to bring up Hulkamania, because that's not a great thing right now. But, I mean, like, it was one of the things, like Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, they're doing their thing, and it's like, no man will live forever, but ideas live forever. Perfect Ultimate Warrior impersonation. You had to be there. But it's one of those things where, like, obviously our generation, people who are here now, are going to remember always how great Josh Allen is, right? But if you want that to live forever, and you want people generations from now to be talking about you, it has to start with a win this weekend, and it has to include that trophy, because at some point when it doesn't, it just fades away and it fades away, and then you get maybe someone watching a TikTok clip or a Red Note or whatever years down the line, and it's, oh, that guy was actually pretty good. Don't hear about him a whole lot, but that guy was actually pretty good. You don't want to be in that category. So you need that championship, rightly or wrongly, to help define the legacy. For the Kansas City Chiefs, they have a couple of these. And this gives them a chance at history. No team has ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row. This would put them 1 win away from that. All this is stacking up accomplishments. And for Patrick Mahomes and for this Kansas City Chiefs team, it locks in dynasty. I think we're already there, but it locks in dynasty, and it really does kind of, like, it puts you in a category that no one else has been in. And I don't know if the end of this run with the Kansas City Chiefs is going to end with the volume of championships that a New England Patriots run had before this one, but or the longevity of it, quite frankly, because that was insane. But I do think that getting this 3 in a row complicates that conversation, I think, substantially, and makes it a very, very interesting discussion to have around, like, greatest teams of all time and along those lines. Now, we have heard that this would be, like, we've been saying all year, that this team is just, like, it's not the same as it's been, but they're just waiting for now. And I think it would be a little bit more validation from the regular season, where they finished first in the AFC, won the conference, and are now hosting this game because of how much they won. And this year, it's a lot of talk about luck, and it's the refs, and it's this, and it's that, and it's the other thing. This would be a, shut up, we're just that good, because this Buffalo team, they were number 1 on my power rankings for a lot of this season. And if they can go out and beat them on Sunday, it just adds a little bit more validation. Again, not that this team really, really needs it. For Patrick Mahomes, we're getting into all-time great categories already, and a win in this one, it makes it undeniable that he is in that conversation, and probably very quick in that conversation. It adds to Andy Reid as well. He is working his way into greatest of all time categories. And, like, a win here, he moves into a tie for second with Don Shula in all-time Super Bowl appearances. And right now, only Chuck Noll and Bill Belichick have won more Super Bowls than him. A win in Super Bowl 59? A win in that game does not get him beyond that point, because he still has a couple to catch up with Noll and with Belichick. But we are now getting into, like, Mount Rushmore territory for head coaches in NFL history, and I think he deserves to be there. I think from just a game standpoint, what is, I think, the big story of this game, and to me, it is, like, it's obviously it's Allen versus Mahomes, but in a bit of a different sense. It's, can Josh Allen basically outscore any defensive problems that this team might have? He is on another level at this point. And so it really does come down to him against this elite defense, because I think that's what happened in the regular season game, is that he basically just outscored any problems that they have. This defense, they played really well in the first half, but they got gashed in the second half against the Baltimore Ravens. That can't happen here, but they are going to have some issues with Patrick Mahomes. And so maybe that's the story. It is either, like, Allen needs to do just enough against one of the best defenses in the league, or this defense that has been pedestrian at best needs to come up with a stop against 2 of the greats in the three of the greats in the history of this sport, in Kelsey, Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes. That this is, like, from a game standpoint, obviously, like, one of them is, well, they have to score a bunch or defend well, but it really does come down to facing an elite defense with an elite offense, or facing an offense that has the capabilities of being an elite with a defense that just doesn't. And so maybe that was a misread by me initially here, because I guess now talking it out, the real story of this game is, can this defense get enough stops to get them across the finish line? Allen is probably going to get his, and if he doesn't, like, they're screwed, right? So it's kind of a circle here, but you have to assume Allen is going to get his at least a little bit. Can they now stop them enough to get across that finish line? It'll be very interesting to see.